It's possibly back, a one-time $800 payment to Social Security, retirement, disability, SSDI, survivors, spousal, and Medicare beneficiaries. I have all the details for you here in the video. Let's get right into it. All right, now I do want to discuss the details of this because it is looking pretty good as it comes down to a one-time $800 payment, as you heard me just mention, for that list of beneficiaries. About 66 plus million people out there that do receive those benefits and enrolled in Medicare as well. Well, I want to bring this to your attention because recently we had some new appointments come in with the 119th Congress, and this is actually looking like a good thing as it comes down to this one-time potential payment. So I want to share with you the details about this. Now, to be 100% fair, this was actually originally introduced years ago, probably back in maybe 2021, maybe 2022. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't remember the exact year, but it was a few years ago that this was originally introduced. It went away, and then now we may be looking at this thing again. Not bad, right? Now here's the thing about it. It's kind of funny how years ago when we got these different announcements that came out at the time that never actually happened, and now all these years later, after all this inflation and all these higher prices and the cost of living has come in, it's funny how these prices and these dollar amounts haven't really increased, but yet prices and the cost of living has increased substantially. It's just funny how that works, right? But anyway, let me share with you what happened recently, the 119th Congress and the changes that took place there, the new appointments that came in, the plan and what really wants to be done here, and where this $800 is actually coming from, and the method in which they would want to distribute this to you, and who would actually be eligible for this, okay? So a lot of moving parts here. Let me share with you the details of it. Okay, so years ago, and again, I don't remember exactly if it was in 2021 or 2022. It was a few years ago. It was around that time frame. Basically what happened is that they came in and said, hey, we want to expand Medicare to include hearing, dental, and vision. Okay, remember all this? Now here's the thing. At the time, they said, sounds good, let's do it. But just wait, we're actually not going to add dental. Just kidding, we're not going to add dental because it's too expensive. We're not going to add dental. But when it comes down to hearing, vision, and these situations, we will actually add this in, right? Okay, fine, we'll add those in to be expanded by Medicare, right? Well, then they said, well, we're feeling kind of bad about it. Since we can't add dental in, we want to issue a $1,000 prepaid card for these individuals. And then they came in and said, no, just kidding. We're not going to do a $1,000 prepaid card. We're going to do $800 as a prepaid card, and we'll send it out to all these beneficiaries who are enrolled in Medicare, which, by the way, right now, it's 66 plus million people. Actually, it's about 67 million people that are enrolled in Medicare that'd be eligible for this, a lot of which are those individuals who are Social Security, retirement, SSDI, survivors, spousal beneficiaries, right? So anyway, they obviously never did this years ago. They also never expanded Medicare. Well, now here's what happened. As of recently, we have some new appointments, right? And we have Bernie Sanders, who is the main person behind expanding Medicare. This is like one of Bernie Sanders' main issues that he wants to handle, which is expanding Medicare to include hearing, dental, and vision, as well as expanding Social Security, implementing the $2,400 increase or the $200 per month raise to benefits through the Social Security Expansion Act. He's made that very clear, and as his statements being appointed to the Senate Finance Committee, he has made that in his statements as well, right? But anyway, I shared the statement with you, by the way, a few weeks ago. I shared with you a video and a statement out of Bernie Sanders when he basically took this new appointment on the Senate Finance Committee seat, okay? But my point is, the Senate Finance Committee, where Bernie Sanders is now in, he's part of this. He had this new appointment back at the beginning of the year. But now that he's part of the Senate Finance Committee, this committee has jurisdiction over Medicare and Social Security and taxation, things like this. So he basically is in the seat that allows him to achieve some of his agenda items. Now, obviously, he's not just the only person that can do this. It has to go through the traditional congressional process of, passing through the House, passing through the Senate, going through the committees, being voted on, amendments being applied, signed by the president. There's a lot of steps in the process. But the point is, Bernie Sanders is right there. He is like in the seat that makes it possible for him to do these things that I've mentioned so far just in the last couple minutes here. Okay, so where does this come in? The same situation applies. Dental coverage is way, way, way too expensive for them to add in to be covered by Medicare. So that's kind of where this $800 payment comes in, because whether it was 3 years or 4 years ago, doesn't really matter. The fact is still the same. Dental is very expensive. I mean, have you called the dentist lately to ask how much it's going to be for a cash pay? Yeah, do it just for fun sometime. Call your local dentist and be like, hey, I don't have dental insurance. How much would it be to come in for, a cleaning, exam, x-rays, whatever? They'll be like, oh, it's going to be $450, just some crazy number like that. I've done it recently. It's nuts. The numbers that they quote, it's like, I'm good. I'll just brush another, one more time per day or something like that. It's just crazy. Not interested. Thanks a lot. But anyway, this is where this whole thing comes in, okay? So let's just see what happens here going forward and what happens with this new appointment with Bernie Sanders being part of the Senate Finance Committee here, and if this is going to be something that he really hammers down on. I would be willing to bet, because this is something Bernie Sanders has talked about for years now: expanding Social Security, raising benefits, raising taxes on higher income people, expanding Medicare to include hearing, dental, and vision. He's talked about this. He's made it very clear that this is what he wants to do. In fact, what he really wants to do, he wants to do Medicare for all. That's what he really wants. That is like his big grand plan, is to do Medicare for all. I'm going to be fair with you. Medicare for all, I could foresee happening in a very long time, okay? Maybe in the next, 15 or 20 years. I don't think it's happening anytime soon. Medicare for all is a huge, huge situation. It would cost trillions and trillions of dollars to be implemented. I don't foresee that happening anytime soon. However, the backup plan for Medicare for all is Medicare expansion for hearing, dental, and vision coverages, okay? That's where we're at now. Okay, I'm just being real with you and just giving my opinion on that. I could be totally wrong, who knows? But I'm just simply saying, that's just my opinion on that. I don't foresee Medicare for all anytime soon, maybe in a couple decades, but not right now, right? Okay, so with that, this is where we come back to this Medicare expansion and this one-time $800 payment that they originally floated a few years ago. This whole thing could be coming back, because if Bernie Sanders starts hammering down and saying, hey, we must do this, we must expand Medicare, and we get other lawmakers to come on board with this and agree, yeah, sure, we'll expand Medicare. Now this whole idea of this $800 payment is where this whole thing comes in, because they're not going to add dental. We know for a fact dental is not being added in. We know that. If they do add dental in, it's going to be really bad coverage, and realistically, dental prices will probably go up significantly because they have to cover the expense somewhere. So my point is, it's not going to be added, right? Okay, that's just my opinion about that as well. But hearing and vision, probably will be added. That's probably not that big of a deal at all, and it would be really nice for a lot of people that are on Medicare. Okay, so this comes back to this $800 payment. Again, when they originally introduced it, it was $1,000, right? That's how they originally introduced this. A $1,000 prepaid card to be used on dental as a concession for the elimination of dental coverages from Medicare expansion. And then they said, just kidding, let's make it $800. And the same situation would apply. They wanted to send out prepaid $800 cards for these roughly 66 to 67 million people enrolled in Medicare. Is they wanted to roll these cards out, prepaid card. You're supposed to use the card at your local dentist for dental work. But then the situation came in where they said, how do we know it's actually being used for dental? You don't, because it's basically a prepaid debit card that you use, and they would have no clue how we're using it. And that's kind of what I talked about at the time years ago, is that how do they know that we're actually using it on dental? I mean, here's the thing. Who says, I'm not saying you should do this, but I'm just simply saying, if we were to get this, who says we couldn't go out and buy some food with it and say, this is dental. I mean, I'm using my teeth to chew up some food. How could that not be argued as dental to some degree, right? That's the thing that they were talking about, is that we don't know about these prepaid cards. So then they went back to the drawing board and they basically said, well, let's scrap the idea. Let's not do this right now. We're not expanding Medicare at the moment. Let's scrap the whole idea, because we can't really prove that the money's being spent on dental procedures. And that's the whole point of what it was supposed to be used for. But anyway, long story short here is that who cares what the money's being used for? If they were to do something like this, again, maybe this comes back at this as this whole prepaid card business, or maybe it comes back as just a one-off payment, or maybe they offer some type of credit in the amount of $800 or whatever, however they would implement this. But this would be massively helpful, and it would be a concession for the elimination of dental from Medicare expansion. I honestly don't feel like Medicare expansion is too far-fetched. In fact, I kind of expect them to do something like this. Sure, it's going to be a process. Sure, it's going to cost some money. Sure, there's going to be people that oppose it and push back against it. That's fine. But that's with everything, okay? It doesn't matter what we're talking about. There's always going to be people that say, we don't need to do that. But it seems to me that Medicare expansion to include hearing and vision and maybe some kind of dental concession of some kind would probably make sense for a lot of people. Here's the thing. Are glasses expensive? Glasses are crazy expensive. You can get cheap glasses, relatively inexpensive glasses. I'm not saying they're cheap by quality, but I'm saying cheap in price, which is nice, but they're still relatively expensive. You could get them for $100 or less in some instances, or hundreds of dollars. But then, of course, you also need to go to the eye doctor and all that business like that. It can be very expensive, all of it. So same thing goes with hearing, right? A hearing test or hearing aids or whatever it happens to be can all add up significantly. So anyway, I want to bring your attention to this really quickly. Who knows? Will it be back? And is this the start of it again? I would anticipate that Bernie Sanders will certainly be working on something like this. Let's keep an eye on him, as I always like to say. Whether you agree with him or you don't, whether you like him or not, let's just keep an eye on him. That's all that matters. Just watch what he's doing and watch what he's talking about, because that's what gets attention. Anyway, I'm here for you. I hope this helps you in any way that I possibly can. Again, I just want to do what I can to represent you, to advocate for you, to keep you posted on what's going on, to do the research so you don't need to, and break it down into these short videos. If I can ask a huge, huge favor of you, number one, please subscribe to the channel. It is totally free to do so. There's a big subscribe button down below. Again, thank you so much for watching. I truly, truly do appreciate it. And thanks for subscribing as well. Thank you. Also, if you can think of one or two people that benefit from this video or any of the other thousands of videos here on the channel, please feel free to share this video with them. There's a share button right down below. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that as well. Otherwise, check out the thousands and thousands of videos here on the channel in the video library. The popular videos I've hand selected for you down below in the description at the top of the comment section. And right now showing up on your screen as well. You'll see some videos popping up there. Check out one of those. Otherwise, thank you once again for watching. I truly appreciate it. Thanks for your support. Thanks for trusting me. Thank you for letting me advocate for you. Thank you for letting me represent you. And thank you for being part of the community.